Hello, and today, while in quarantine, I'm going to be comparing the video quality of the Canon C100 Mark I, comparing that to the Panasonic G7. Two very different cameras for two very different types of people, and I want to test the video quality from each one because I've gotten quite a lot of comments asking more about the C100 and more about the G7 as well. So I want to do a video comparing the video quality from within my own bedroom between the two, low light and in good light. So let's see what they can do. Now, to keep this as fair as possible, I'm going to be using one lens, which is the Nikon 35-70 f3.5 AI. I've adapted it to my Canon C100, and I'll be shooting with it, in this scene at least, at f5.6 for that extra crispy sharpness. So I'm going to be also adapting it to my G7, as I have an adapter to do that as well. The field of view will be different, as this has basically a Super 35mm sensor, as that has a Micro Four Thirds sensor. So the field of view is going to be different, but I will adjust for that. So let's see. Let's turn this thing on and begin recording. I have my ND filter on 2 stops to compensate. ISO is native at 850 and at f5.6. The aperture is at f5.6, like I said. Now we're going to switch out the 14-42 for the 35-70. It's quite large on this camera especially. It's a 67mm filter thread size to give you an idea of what we're dealing with here. And yeah, the field of view is tighter, much tighter. So we're going to have to step this back. Yeah, so it's going to be tighter. I have it at about 40 to 45 millimeters, f5.6. Let's begin.
The first thing I noticed between these two cameras when it comes to their video quality is the fact that the C100 clearly has more noticeable artifacts, especially in the shadows. That's due to the 24 megabit per second AVCHD codec limiting the actual video quality of the C100 to just that, versus the 100 megabit per second codec, an H.264 on the Panasonic G7. However, the C100 clearly holds up really well when it comes to sharpness, even though the resolution is only half the resolution at 1080p versus 4K on the G7. You can see that it's half the resolution, but the sharpness is still definitely there, and I'm quite impressed with it because of that.
Okay. ISO 800. Taking it up to 1000, 1250, 1600, 2000, 2500, 3200. I'll stop it down to f8 to compensate. 4000, 5000, and 6400. I'll stop it down again to f11 to compensate. Now, even on this screen, I can definitely see artifacts in the shadows. So the image is going to be softer overall. So we'll take it back down to 800 and open it up to f3.5 or 5.6. Let's begin. Let's take the ISO up to 2000. 2500, 3200, 4000, 5000, 6400. Let's take the ND to 4 stops to compensate. 8000, and my usual limit of 10,000. I'm not going to take it above 10,000 because I know above 10,000 it gets pretty gnarly, but just for the test we can take it to 12,800. Back down to 6,400 to compare it more to the G7. ND filters at 2 stops.
Each camera set to ISO 6400 presents an image that looks relatively similar to what we did see at the native ISOs. However, the G7 has gained a lot more noise and the C100 has gotten a little bit softer. However, I doubled the C100's ISO to 12,800 and clearly it looks worse than the G7, but of course that's at double the ISO. But we can still see sharpness and a little bit of detail, so I will say that the C100's ISO performance is quite solid.